Metroid fans have had an interesting couple of years when it comes to their beloved Samus and the game's franchise. What once was a cornerstone for Nintendo, a game and franchise that we saw very often on Nintendo platforms, pretty much dwindled into oblivion in the past few years. We haven't seen much from Samus, we haven't seen much from the Metroid universe, and it's a shame because it used to be so popular and so many people out there are Metroid fans. The last time we saw a Metroid game was Metroid Prime Federation Forces for the 3DS, which was a game that a lot of people gave a hard time when it was officially announced and first showcased, but I was one of the people that had sort of decent expectations for the game. I thought a lot of negativity surrounding the game was just unwarranted and people just were unhappy with what they got, and I thought that it was going to be a fine entry in the Metroid series. And man, I was wrong. I know there's some people out there that like that game and don't think it's that bad, but that game was just such a disappointment to me. Even if it wasn't a Metroid game, it was still just a boring game to me. It felt slow and plodding, and the elements of the Metroid universe almost felt a bit tacked on, and I just did not like that game. So if you've been a Metroid fan, you've been depressed for several years now because nothing has been going on. Well, that all changed at E3 2017, when Nintendo announced 2 Metroid games, and pretty much everyone lost their shit. They got Metroid Prime 4 coming to the Nintendo Switch, which just got a simple graphic that everyone crapped their pants about, and Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS. Now this is a reimagining of Metroid II, which is one of the most underrated Metroid games, was only released on the Game Boy and never really heard from again, never was remastered or anything. So this made a perfect candidate as a quick entry into the Metroid series. So, Metroid Samus Returns, what's it all about? Is it worth checking out? Is it worth it? Now, this is just a preview. This is not a review of the game. This is simply just my impressions on the first couple of hours of the game. I've been playing it for about 4 hours or so, and I have some thoughts on it so far. So if you want the full review, make sure you keep it locked on to NintendoEnthusiast.com. That's where my full review will be up when the embargo lifts for this game. But for now, let's get my preview impressions of the game. Let's talk about what I like about the game, maybe what I don't like about the game, and whether I think this deserves a spot on your gaming shelf. So Metroid Samus Returns, is it worth it? Let's talk about it. So before we talk about the positive aspects of the game, I like to talk about the negative aspects and things that I think some people might not like. The first thing I want to talk about is the new melee attack. Now there's lots of new stuff in this game, and for the most part we'll talk about it in the good section because I like most of it. But one thing I didn't really care for, I guess, is the melee attack. Now, what this does is basically it's just a melee attack, a simple swipe, and you combat the enemy. It just feels a bit tacked on at times. The first couple times you do it and you come across a certain enemy that you have to do the melee attack on her, you don't really have to do it, but it just makes the fight much easier. It's kind of cool, but it does feel like it overstays its welcome a little bit. Now, when you're battling the Metroids, that's when the melee attack feels really good because it feels in place. You know, this is a large creature, it's a Metroid, you have to defeat 40 Metroids in the game, but the common enemy that always comes across that you're supposed to use the melee attack on, I feel like you see him a bit too much, so it kind of overstays its welcome. You can use other weapons against him, it's just much easier to do the melee attack. So not a huge deal. I do somewhat like the melee attack, I just think it's a bit tacked on at times. It's kind of like, oh, it's this enemy again, oh, I have to do the melee attack again. Not a huge deal, it might not even bother most people, but it was worth mentioning to me. And another thing that I'm a bit disappointed with is just the sound options in the game. You might be saying, well, what the hell are wrong with the sound options? You see, they redid all of the music in the game, and I love the music in Metroid 2. I think it has some of the best tunes in the Metroid series. But one thing I noticed was you couldn't adjust the sound options. So I wanted to hear the music over the gameplay, and I went into the menus and I couldn't do that. It's just all standard default. Now, of course, if you get the collector's edition, you do get a CD with the game, so that's sort of an unwarranted thing if you just want to listen to the music, but I did not get the collector's edition. I just have the standard one, and I wanted to hear more of the music, not the gun battle that was going on. So once again, not a huge deal, but it is worth noting. And I would say the final thing that I felt is a bit lacking is just the story elements of the game. Now, Metroid 2 didn't have a super deep story. Obviously, this was a Game Boy game. Unless you're playing an RPG on the Game Boy, there's not a lot of whole story to talk about in most of your games. And with Samus Returns, I was hoping for a bit more. There was an intro scene that had some text where you could read about the backstory, but so far in my adventure, I haven't gotten any really more story in the game, and I kind of wish there was more. I kind of wish there was more story elements and sort of telling me more about this universe I'm in and why I am there. Now, this could very well change as I progress, into the game more. Like I said, only about 3 or 4 hours of gameplay has been put into this game so far, so hopefully that's something that gets addressed in the later stages of the game. But so far, that's all my complaints, really. And if that's all the complaints, then there's obviously a lot of good to talk about. So let's talk about the good elements of Metroid Samus Returns and why I really like this game. So the first positive thing that we have to talk about is the visual upgrade in Metroid Samus Returns. Now, Metroid 2 was not a bad looking game. I thought it looked very good on the Game Boy. It looked even better on the Super Game Boy when you would play it on your Super Nintendo. But Metroid Samus Returns definitely is a modern looking game. Samus herself looks great. There's little graphical details in the backgrounds. The backgrounds are nice and varied. The enemies look very nice and clean, animated very well. The Metroids, I think, look phenomenal. Some of the environments just look very organic and feel very alive. I think MercurySteam did a really good job in the graphics department of this game, and that translates into the audio as well. I think the remix soundtrack sounds great. I love the way they did some of the tunes, including the do 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 song. It's so catchy. I just wish I could mess with the sound settings and I could increase the volume of the music and decrease the game, because damn it, I want to listen to the music. But it sounds and looks phenomenal. MercurySteam did a fantastic job in that department of the game. Other things I like are new additions to the game. There's a scan pulse that allows you to sort of scan the area and see which areas are breakable, so you're not really getting stuck as much, and it's very easy to figure out where you need to bomb something or where you need to blow up something so that you can progress through the game. The pacing of the game is very well done as well. Everything feels unique. Everything feels new and fresh. I think even the most diehard Metroid 2 fan will feel like this is sort of a different experience. Yes, you still have to kill 40 Metroids. Yes, you still play as Samus. But other than that, and like the little intro area, it feels very different. It feels very fresh. And I appreciate that because, it's not just a simple graphical upgrade with this game. Now, there's a lot of new abilities. Like I mentioned, the scan ability, the melee ability, that is sort of love it or hate it. But one thing I really liked is the 360 arm cannon ability. By holding down the L trigger, you can move Samus's arm cannon in a full 360-degree motion, which is very nice. I like that addition in the game. I think it's a good addition and it makes sense. It keeps things feeling fresh, and that's really one of the things I really like about the game is, I just mentioned it, but the fact that they didn't just do a simple graphical upgrade. They really seem to build the game from the ground up based on the Metroid 2 story and just expanding upon that and expanding upon the universe in which Samus is in. That is awesome to me because it really makes it feel like a brand new game. Yes, it has the same storyline, but everything just feels unique and fresh and really good. And there's a lot of good things about the game. The pacing is very well done. The way you unlock abilities feels very natural. It feels very organic. And I'm just having so much fun with the game. It feels so good to be playing a 2D Metroid game with a high level of polish, because we have not seen a 2D Metroid game since what, Other M? And that's sort of a love it or hate it game, but even if you don't love that game, even if you hate that game, that was back in 2010. It's been 7 freaking years since Samus has returned in 2D form. And I really like that. I really like that she's back in 2D form. Another thing I like about the game is the challenge. I found myself dying very early in the game, and I was kind of like, well, what am I doing wrong here? But I just felt like I was playing a sort of reckless style. You have to be very precise with this game. You have to take your time. You have to think things through. And the enemies, even the common enemies, can drain your life very quickly. You fall into a pit and you know, you go underwater and you don't have an ability for that, you're done. You're drowning to death. I like that about the game. The platforming is very precise, and it's just a very well-crafted game thus far. I do wish that there were more story elements. I do wish that I could listen to just the music, but I think that the story is going to come along in the game. I think once I get deeper into the game, I will start to get the story. The music issue, I'm just going to have to deal with. But Metroid Samus Returns. Is Metroid back? Is Samus back? I think it's safe to say yes. Like I said, this is simply just a preview. My impressions 3 to 4 hours into the game, but there's enough stuff in here to make it a really enjoyable game. There's a lot of content to sink your teeth into. The game is an awesome reimagining of an awesome game to begin with, Metroid II, and I think MercurySteam has done a fantastic job with this game. I haven't explored any amiibo support yet, so I don't know what that's all about. Like I said, that's more stuff for the review. I just wanted to get the basics out of the way, the gameplay, the graphics, the story, how it looks, how it plays, how it feels, and for the most part, I am very pleased with this game. It has been an utter joy playing a 2D Metroid game, brand new in 2017, and I think Metroid fans are going to be very happy with this game. So, is it worth it so far? Yes, definitely. So far, so good. I've been having a blast with it. No pun intended, no blast ball here. It's definitely a big step up from Federation Forces. So, those are my thoughts on Metroid Samus Returns for the 3DS. Like I said, full review will be up on Nintendo Enthusiast, so let me know in the comments section down below if this is a game you've been looking forward to, a game that's on your radar, and a game you'll be checking out when it releases later on in September. And thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave me your thoughts in the comments section down below. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. We just hit 50,000 subscribers on this channel, which is absolutely insane. So yes, there is a game room tour coming up. This game room looks spotless right now. So make sure you check back for that, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later.